Hey everybody, this is Lisa Harper, and you're listening to the Not Ready Yet Curating Conversations for the Aging Journey podcast. This is the show that changes the conversations we have with our loved ones about aging and life decisions. Let's have more honest conversations where we speak the quiet parts out loud. Today we are talking about challenging aging stereotypes with our guest Chris Moore. Chris is the founder of Senior Remodeling Experts and a nationally recognized leader in aging in place solutions. With nearly 4 decades in construction and remodeling, he was the first certified aging in place specialist, also known as CAPS, in Virginia's Roanoke Valley. And in 2020, Chris was honored as CAPS Designee of the Year. He also is a CAPS instructor educating the new generation of home modification professionals. But Chris's work goes way beyond home modifications. After serving hundreds of aging adults in their homes, and after losing his wife in 2022, his mission deepened into questioning the cultural narrative that aging means decline and understanding why one 80-year-old can hike the Appalachian Through Trail and another chooses to be sedentary. Through his book, Age Out Loud, and his advocacy, he invites us to do just that, age out loud, embrace purpose, vitality, and meaning in every season. First of all, welcome, Chris. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm excited for this conversation, and I find it fascinating. So you went from building your first wheelchair ramp decades ago to authoring, writing a book about what it means to grow older. Can you share that journey with our audience?
Well, it's so appropriate that the name of your program is Not Ready Yet, because that sentiment, which I've heard hundreds of times from people when I had a conversation with somebody about modifying their home, about making it safer and more accessible, and they would tell me, I'm not ready for that yet. And it puzzled me when clearly they were ready for that. And one of the questions that I've learned to ask people now is, if you were ready for that, what would it look like? What would be your mindset, your physical needs, your cognitive abilities that would cause you to say, oh yeah, I am ready for that now? And when you ask it in that way, people oftentimes will stop and think about what it really means when they say, I'm not ready yet. And I came to the conclusion that what they're really saying is that I don't want to accept that I'm getting older because I have bought into the cultural narrative that getting older means getting weaker and sicker. Mm. And that usually is not conscious, it's subconscious. It's that we have a belief that getting older is a bad thing. Everybody wants to live a long life, but nobody wants to get older. Because getting older is associated within that cultural narrative with getting weaker and sicker. And nobody wants to get weaker and sicker. I had a conversation years ago with an elder care attorney, and I said, why is it that when you talk to people about saving money for retirement, you talk to people about putting money in their 401k, they're all about that. They'll come to a seminar all day long about saving money for retirement, especially if there's a free dinner involved. But have a conversation with them about writing a will or putting a grab bar in their bathroom, and they run for the exits. They don't want to have that conversation. And this elder care attorney turned to me and he said, that's easy. It's because when they're saving money back in their 401k, in their mind, they're having thoughts of walking barefoot on the beach. They're having thoughts of going on a cruise. They're having thoughts of driving their convertible down a windy mountain road on a sunny day. They're having all these thoughts of enjoyable, relaxing, wonderful things that they plan to do with the money when they're no longer working. But when they're having a conversation about writing a will, or they're having a conversation about putting a grab bar in their bathroom, they're thinking about being weaker and sicker. They're thinking about either being dead or being incapacitated in some way. And that's not an enjoyable thing to think about. And so for years and years, I had the conversation, people become caregivers suddenly. And so you should plan ahead. You should put these things in place. And some people did, most people did not. And the ones that did were almost always people who had been caregivers. They had seen what the other side of the equation feels like. And those are what we call in the CAPS class as the planners, as opposed to the procrastinators. And so, you try to find the planners and you work with them. But over time, it occurred to me that if we could change the paradigm of how we view aging to begin with, and people didn't have the perception in their mind that getting older means getting weaker and sicker, and we could change that to where they think getting older means getting wiser, getting more life experiences under your belt, having more bandwidth to understand relationships, to understand life, to have the wisdom that in more traditional societies, elders were looked at as a source of wisdom. That's who you went to find answers. If you were, a young couple, or you were a young person, or you were a middle-aged person and you were struggling with some aspect of your life, you would go find the village elder. You would go find the person who had lived many, many years and sit at their feet and listen to their perspective and their understanding of your situation. But somehow over the years, we've lost so much of that. And we now tend to view elders not as a source of wisdom, but as a burden. You read all kinds of articles about, the aging of society and how, the baby boomers started turning 80 at the beginning of this year, and how the number of caregivers compared to the number of people needing care is declining, and how caregiving for our seniors is going to become a bigger and bigger burden to society. And the whole idea that seniors are a burden to society rather than a blessing to society, I think is at the bottom of so much of this "I'm not ready for that yet" mentality.
We're so focused on anti-aging that we're even making it worse. It has just gotten really, with a mix of modern technology and, medicine, I guess I'll call it, to ward off wrinkles and do all the things. And it's like we're making it worse by not accepting that views that as a burden. I feel like some people have such a great relationship with their grandparents, or they had that wonderful relationship, but they see that person as an isolated human, and they don't take that same approach with everyone else in that age group,
Right.
Which I think is pretty fascinating too.
It is, and it comes down to how we compartmentalize everything.
Yeah.
Right? We look at people as constituencies. We look at people as demographic groups. We say this group over here and that group over there. And I think one of the things that when we talk about accessibility, we tend to do that with wheelchair users. We tend to say that wheelchair users are a monolithic group, and they're no more monolithic than any other group. I've seen videos of incredible athletes who are paralyzed from the waist down and are doing pull-ups and gymnastics strapped to their chair with massive upper body strength.
Yeah.
And that wheelchair user is as distant from the 97-year-old grandmother who can walk a few steps, but she's very frail and she uses a wheelchair most of the time to get around. Those two individuals are completely different in their needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And the same way we view 90-year-olds. I recently had the privilege to interview a man by the name of Dale Sanders. He is 90 years old. He is in the process, as we speak, of through hiking the AT and to get back his crown of the oldest person to have done so. He did it at 82, And then a friend of his came back and did it at 84. And now at 90, he's taking it back. And he's full of life. He's dancing around. I hiked with him for 4 or 5 miles. He kept saying, we're going downhill. We can go a little faster. And, he's 90 years old.
That's amazing.
There's a man that we did some work for nearby who's 100. His wife's 97. And I was recently on the local news talking about my book, and the reporter asked me if I knew of anybody that she could talk to that would kind of be a poster child for aging out loud. And so I immediately thought of this couple and sent her to go talk to them. She said that Ava said, well, when our children retired, I began to think maybe we were starting to get a little bit old.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Our kids are when her kids retired.
When her kids retired, right?
That's great.
So,
but that mindset, right? That's what you're trying to figure out.
It's mindset. It's what you expect.
Yeah.
One of the things I recently heard was expectation is your superpower. If what you expect to happen and what you desire to happen are at odds, expectation will always win.
And I do believe that. I love quotes, and two things there, that hope is the best thing for tomorrow, that expectation of something greater. When you align what you want and what you're willing to do, and a lot of that sometimes equals change, right? If you keep butting your head against something you want, but you're not willing to do what it takes to get that, that's right. Where you have to, something has to give. Otherwise, you're just going to be in turmoil all the time. And so this mindset piece, through your experience and through hearing people say, I'm not ready yet. Again, that's the pattern. That's why I called the podcast that. I'm I just got so curious. How do we push beyond the not ready yet? What is that not ready yet? And it really is different for every person, right? I say getting information is always the first charge. It's like, if you're scared of something, if you have hesitation, it's because you don't have enough information to fill in those gaps. And so one other thing I wanted to mention when we were talking about, the elder and going to them in our age of AI, that's one thing. But even before, it's like everybody Googles everything now. And so instead of going to an elder to ask guidance or advice for some life event, people are Googling everything. And so it's kind of cut out that connection. We have moved in every corner of the world. So our family, even though they're family, we may not sit with them every Sunday dinner. We may not get together weekly. And I think those opportunities, they anchored those conversations. And so if your family's just not very intentional about even, getting everybody on a Zoom or something, use technology to kind of create the same moment. But we just don't have those moments so much anymore.
There's 2 chapters in my book. One's called The Rise and the Fall of the Waltons Model. And one is called Society Suffers When Seniors Are Sequestered. How I originally got into the aging in place space. I started my company in 2001, and for the first 7 years of my business, we were pretty exclusively involved in new construction. We were framing big houses in 2006, 2007. Everybody thought they could build the biggest house ever known to man, and you'd make money on it because the housing market's just going to keep going up, right? Everybody knows that until it didn't. And then when 2008 came and the crash, and I was looking for something else to do, my mom and dad, who had been living in Green Valley, Arizona, and Green Valley is right outside of Tucson. It is a town where by ordinance, you can only buy a house in Green Valley if at least one member of your household is over the age of 55. So it's an age-restricted community. And then my mom had a stroke, and they moved back to Virginia where I live to be closer to family and get some help, and bought a house. And she came home in a wheelchair, and there were 5 or 6 steps coming into the back door and 5 or 6 steps coming to the front door. And so I built my first wheelchair ramp. But it was out of, they say necessity is the mother of invention. It was doing things for my mother that made me aware of aging in place and of universal design, of home modification. And it was at a time when I was looking for a new way to make a living. And so I began to educate myself about what the possibilities were. And that education, I think, is so critical because people make better choices when they're educated, when they know what their choices are, you know? And, but so often when it happens, because of the not ready yet mindset, people don't think about it until it's a crisis. And then you're in a crisis and everything's moving so fast and you have all these decisions to make. And it's hard to make decisions when you're in a crisis. Whereas if you educate yourself and you learn about how can I age powerfully, how can I make the rest of my life the best of my life, how can I live in a way that I get the most independence for as long as possible, and then how do I alter my environment, my support network, in such a way that I can support the lifestyle decision that I and my family make, as opposed to, you know, you broke your hip, you're in rehab tells you that, you know, you got 3 more days and then Medicare is not going to pay for it anymore. Where are you going to go? And you have no idea where you're going to go. You don't even know what the options are, because you didn't think about it. You didn't educate yourself. And a lot of times the grown children are pushing their parents to make a decision in a certain direction, and the parents don't want to, because they don't want to have the conversation. I've been in lots of living rooms and kitchen tables where there's the mom or the dad or both, and then there's 3 or 4 siblings all sitting around, and they all have different agendas. One of them wants to take care of mom and spend every penny that mom has and probably every penny that they have to keep her comfortable and do what she wants and give her as wonderful a life as they can. And then sibling number 2 wants to not spend any of the money and wants to get it all as an inheritance when mom dies. And sibling number 3 really doesn't care. They just want this meeting to be over so they can go back to work. And sibling number 1 is the one that usually ends up being the caregiver. And oftentimes the one who's the caregiver gets nothing but criticism from the other siblings. I mean, that's again and again and again. And historically, statistically, that's usually the oldest daughter who becomes the caregiver, more often than not. But that family dynamic, if, as you've said, that gather around the table for Sunday dinner, family togetherness has been missing for decades or generations, and that sense that people take care of themselves has dissipated, that's where the problem comes in. And I think that as I've looked at this, when I talk about the rise and the fall of the Walton's model, that model where multi-generational living was the norm during the agricultural age, when people lived on farms and the several generations under one roof was typical. It wasn't unusual at all. And everybody took care of their family. Nobody thought anything else of it. And that's just what you did.
Yeah.
And then Social Security came along and Medicare came along and families became more mobile. And like you said, they're scattered all over the country. And that family taking care of family, not that it doesn't still exist, but it's not nearly as universal.
Yeah, I feel like it's more of the one-off. When people are talking about we want a multi-generational home, that's starting to come more into term now, and people are understanding that they want to bring somebody into their home. I love how you describe that kitchen table and the people involved. And that is the audience. You know, I am here talking to the adult kids because I want them to have more of a sense of the overall picture. Like you were saying, somebody walking the AT Appalachian Trail for those not familiar, at 90, we are living longer, some in a wonderful way. We call, the go-go's, like they're just still after it. And then some not so much. But all of that to say, to your point of your person that said, I started to understand I'm aging when my kids retired. Like, that's not a statement that would have been even stated 40 years ago.
No. 20 years
Right.
ago.
So
10 years ago.
that in itself, like to encompass that and understand the scale of this and, the even after a diagnosis or some kind of medical situation, there's no telling. Like it could, people could still be here with us for 15, 20 years. And so I feel like the scope of conversations and the scope of these difficult conversations, that's why the podcast, I want people to be able to go, my parents don't want to leave, like move or modify, right? Like that's kind of what we say, move or modify. Is your home, are you able to modify it and stay there safely? Or are we talking moving? And if so, what are those options? When you have to make a decision, your options are very few. When you start to think about things, you have way more options and you have more control and agency over your life. And the amount of kitchen tables you've sat around and help people help families walk through these conversations and decisions. Your book has, what is that mindset? What does it take? How do we reject fear-based narratives? How do we change that? And how we change it is these conversations.
Right. To change the conversation and to change the way we frame our experiences. Yeah. Because we all have experiences in our life, and regardless of the wonderful experiences, the devastating experiences, we all put a frame around that, and the frame is either the positive aspect of that experience or the negative aspect of that experience. When my wife died of lung cancer at the age of 55, I was a puddle on the floor. I was. I mean, I didn't know what my purpose was. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know. All of my handles were gone. And sometime after that, it hit me. I was walking by the river, and it hit me like a freight train. When Barbara and I first got married in 1989, we had been married 3 months. It was February of 1990. She went in the hospital with encephalitis. She said it felt like steel claws were ripping her head open. She went in the hospital. She lost her eyesight. She lost her speech. She had seizures. I found out later that 90% of people with encephalitis die. 90% of people who don't die lose all their short-term memory. And she was miraculously healed of that. And it occurred to me this morning, this epiphany that I got, is that if someone had told me at that moment, she's not going to die at 22 years old, she's going to live for 33 more years and bear you 3 more children, I would have been ecstatic. And here I am, I'm distraught that she died at 55. Yeah. But I have the power to choose to be ecstatic for those 33 years that I received.
Absolutely.
And so how I frame that changes my experience. And that realization is really what led to the book. That realization is what led to my healing. That realization is what led me to understand that we have that power in everything in our life. When we think about aging, we can frame aging as decline, as weaker and sicker, or we can frame it as we have the gift of another day on this earth. And we have the opportunity to share one more day with people that we love and people that we can impact. somebody who's going through something that I can touch and I can turn their day around by sharing the knowledge and the truth and the understanding that I've been given. And, we hear time is money, right? Time is not money. Time is infinitely more valuable than money. Mm. We can run out of money. You can run out of money today and have 0 cents, and you can get more money.
Mm-hmm. You can't
when
with
you
time.
run out of time, you're done. It's over.
Yeah.
And people often say after they lose a loved one, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. And so these conversations that we have about aging in place, these conversations we have about taking care of our loved ones, these conversations we have about spending one more day sitting with our mother or our father or our grandmother or aunt or uncle or whoever it may be, neighbor, that we can have that fellowship and that time with them and maybe hear a story. We did a job for a veteran, a World War II veteran, B-17 pilot, shot down behind enemy lines. He and his co-pilot survived the crash. They landed, they got away from the plane, and the co-pilot said, I'm going to give myself up. We're going to die anyway, because they were behind enemy line. They didn't have anything to eat. He said, well, give me 24 hours to get away from here before you turn yourself in. So he got out of there. He never saw his co-pilot again.
Oh, wow.
And spent 40 days behind enemy lines in Germany, hiding in barns during the day and traveling at night, and lost 40 pounds, I think he said. And he was skin and bones, finally made it into Spain, and got into Spain, ended up getting thrown in jail in Spain for something or other. And the British consulate found out about him, came and got him out of the jail in Spain and took him back to Britain and came back to America. And so here he is now, in his 90s. And I got to hear this story from this man's mouth. And I only got to hear the story because I saw some of his ribbons, and I asked him about his experience and his time in the service, and just being able to meet somebody like that.
Oh yeah.
Being able to take a few minutes and hear what somebody went through. And
people that have had that type of loss or that type of experience where you have pretty much doubted your next breath, that, is that going to be there? Him trying to get into more friendly territory and making it. And then just even, those that have lost a loved one, I think that you're able to then connect more to the now and to the moment. And like you say, to be able to acknowledge every day, like I find that people that have that have gone through some serious, life experience. And I hope that people can find that place without having to go through all those things.
It would be wonderful if people could, but human nature is such that we seldom will put ourselves in a position to gain that, because that position involves suffering. And suffering is a gift. Yeah. People say, how could a loving God allow so much suffering on this earth? But you learn things in suffering that you don't learn any other way. You learn to appreciate the sunshine in the midst of the storm. If you never went through a storm and it was sunny every day, you wouldn't appreciate the sunshine. Yeah. It's just the status quo.
Yeah.
But when you're in the midst of a raging hurricane and you're not sure if you're going to make it through 10 more minutes without the house blowing away around you, and then the sun comes out, boy,
that's the best sun you've ever seen.
You love that sunshine.
Yeah.
And that's the way life is.
Yeah.
And that's where sitting with and spending time with those elders, those people who have been through a lot of life, who have been through a lot of devastation and a lot of difficulty and have overcome and come out the other side, is so powerful. It's so enlightening. It's so invigorating if we will receive it.
Yeah. You talk about pillars, correct? And as far as anchoring yourself to this concept of aging out loud or age out loud.
Right, right. And I call them, it's in chapter 10 of the book, and I call it the 7 pillars of ageless vitality.
Okay.
And the pillars are: number 1, mindset; number 2, nutrition; number 3, exercise; sleep; relationship with God; relationship with others; and brain health.
Okay. Yeah, brain
Okay.
health.
And they're all interconnected, because brain health it sounds a lot like mindset, which, is the first one, right? And but brain health is keeping our brain active and alive. And they say that learning a new language, or learning a musical instrument, or learning something that's completely outside the realm of what we're accustomed to knowing, keeps our neural pathways alive, keeps our brain firing on all cylinders and making new neural pathways, and keeping that youthful enthusiasm and that childlike wonder that is really when we hearken unto youth and we worship youth. It's not the flawless complexion that's worth holding on to. It's the childlike wonder. It's the pure joy of a 2-year-old who sees a butterfly for the first time.
Oh.
And is just enraptured with how amazing this world is that we live in.
All the colors.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The colors of the
And if
world.
we can hold on to that,
Yeah.
if we can hold on to that throughout our life, we will never grow old.
Yeah. I'm fascinated every night by the sunset. I'm always like, what's it doing tonight? Just to be able to find that moment again, just to find a little bit of stillness. And I may be in traffic and I'm looking at the sunset, but I'm with the sunset for a moment. And like you say, that childlike wonder, staying curious, staying engaged and energized, like you have to be open to new things and open to the fact that you may not do it well. You may not like it after all, but you tried it and you gave it the exercise. It's like doing the exercise of something new. I know some people just fear, if I'm not going to be good at it, I don't want to do it. And I hear that and I'm like, really? Like, just enjoy, just like take the result out of it and enjoy that process. You talk also about finish louder. What does that mean to you?
Well, just the whole term age out loud, okay, as opposed to fading quietly, right? When we say out loud, I'm talking about live life to the fullest. There's a Theodore Roosevelt quote that I love, and it goes something like this: "It is not the critic who counts. It's not the one who points out how the strong man stumbled or the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit goes to the man actually in the arena, who through blood and sweat and tears tries again and again and again. And in the end, if he succeeds, he knows the triumph of high achievement. But even if he fails while striving valiantly and does not find his place amongst those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat." Yeah. And sad to say, our world has become full of cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Though what you just described, if I'm not going to be good at it, I'm not going to try it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're never going to be good at anything until you've fallen on your face a whole bunch of times getting better at it.
Yeah.
That's the way life works.
Yeah.
My father used to tell this story about 2 little boys learning how to ride a skateboard. And the one boy immediately took his skateboard to the top of the hill and went for it. And the other boy started at the bottom of the hill, and he went up just a little bit and rode down, went up a little bit and rode down, went up a little bit more and rode down, went up a little bit more and rode down. And at the end of the day, they both knew how to ride a skateboard, but one of them was bloody and one of them was not. And, the point that he was trying to make was that if you do things a little more cautiously and thoughtfully, that's the kind of person he was. He was very intellectual, and if you do it thoughtfully, you'll get to the same result, but you won't be bloodied in the process. But in reality, it's the people that go to the top and go for it that usually prevail. The ones that start at the bottom, go up a little bit, get a little bit, get a little bit, get a little bit. Often they quit before they ever get to, because they're not willing to put themselves out there. And I think when we talk about aging out loud, that is the point that makes the difference. Do the thing that you desire to do. You only have so many days on this earth. Take a chance. Fall on your face. Do the thing that you desire to do. Who cares what anybody else thinks? It's your life.
Yeah.
It's your decision, and it's those people who age out loud. It's those people who have the light still shining in their eyes at 90 years old and are making a difference, and they're touching the lives of others, and they're squeezing every ounce of life that they can out of every day that they have. And I think that people of all ages need to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people, we've just become so cautious. We don't recognize the infinite value that we have been given to be created as human beings and live on this earth. It's such a gift, and people just take it for granted and plod along and get up and go to work and come home and do it again tomorrow.
Yeah. No, it is. It becomes, that is, I mean, and then I think that's why a lot of people, when they do retire, they've never kind of picked up anything else. They don't have anything to look forward to. They're thinking of it as a loss. There's actual grief going on. Yeah. And so it is, and that's the mindset, right? It's like, have that mindset that's what you achieved, and now it's time for you. You're slipping into this new exciting role that you can't wait to be in, and I think that's amazing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So what is one small shift that you would say to someone as we're talking about aging out loud, that they could start to practice?
I would say, if you're going to do one thing, it's gratitude. It's wake up in the morning, and before you think about what you got to do for the day, before you think about all the, anything else, think about what you have to be thankful for. Think about that, whatever it is, you open your eyes and you can see. Yeah. You can hear the birds.
You're here.
You got a roof over your head.
Yeah.
You're here. You're alive.
Yeah.
You stand on your legs and they hold you up. And because we get so caught up in thinking about what we don't have and comparing ourselves with the Joneses and thinking about, we don't have this and we don't have that, and we're trying to get whatever we're trying to get. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think that having goals and having aspirations and working to improve yourself is important and valuable, but from a place of gratitude for what you already have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you're not grateful for what you already have, once you achieve that thing, you're not going to be grateful for it either.
Yeah, the goalpost keeps moving. We want people. The book is out in paperback right now, correct?
It's on Amazon. Go to Amazon and Age Out Loud. I also have a Substack, Age Out Loud on Substack, that I write on, and some of these thoughts end up there.
Yeah.
And
we'll have notes in the show notes, but is there anything that you want to make sure you have this opportunity to tell our audience?
Question your assumptions. Question your beliefs about aging, of course, but about life. I mean, if you're discontented about something, question your assumptions. Look around. Find people who seem to be outrageously joyful and spend some time with them and see what their mindset is and how they're operating, and maybe pick up some tidbits. Because sometimes I can go in a public place and you can just watch people. You can just watch people walk by, and you see people there's a lot of miserable people around. But every once in a while, if you go in a crowd and just watch people walk by, you'll see a lot of people that are just, they don't look very happy at all.
Yeah.
And then every now and then you'll see somebody with joy in their face, with light in their eyes. And in my experience, those are people who serve others. Those are the people who have devoted their lives to making somebody else's life better.
I love that.
Yeah, Zig Ziglar said you can get everything you want in life as long as you help enough other people get what they want in life. And I think that, we gratitude and service. We think more about how we can help somebody else than what we can get out of the deal. You'll be a much happier person, I promise.
Oh, 100%. I believe that. Yeah, I believe that. And I also believe in kindness. I guess we say pay it forward. Like everything now has a saying or some kind of acronym. I know I'm not that in that world. But I just see that as, light, we can see where light's going. But sound and wind are very interesting and curious to me because you can't see them, and so I think of kindness as the same, like it kind of reverberates and it's there.
But like the wind, you can see the effects.
Yeah.
When the wind's blowing, you can see the trees moving.
Yeah.
When people are kind, you can see the trail they leave behind of, people's lives lit up. People,
Yeah.
a little bit of kindness goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Chris, I want to thank you, but before I let you go, I wanted to see if you would be open to playing a lightning round of ready or not. So the ready or not lightning round. The first question, what's one lesson from growing up on a farm that still guides your work today?
That things grow when they're nurtured.
Okay. What's one home modification everyone should consider before they think they need it?
You should have it one way to get in your house without any steps, a 0-step entry.
Okay. Every home should have a 0-step entry. Okay. Next question. Hard hat or writing hat?
For me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, writing 100% is.
Yeah.
I've been doing construction for 40 years and I have not been writing for 40 years. So writing is my new jam.
That's your new thing. That's your new energy. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And last one, front porch or back deck?
Ooh, wow, that's a tough one. I'm going to have to say front porch because I think that front porch illustrates that sense of community and that sense of neighbor interaction and that sense of that we need to have relationships with others that I think we've lost so much of.
Okay, front porch it is then. Well, Chris, I want to thank you so much. And for everyone, the book website is ageoutloudbook.com. You can find Chris on the podcast called Aging in Place is a Team Sport. And he has a YouTube channel as well, is Senior Remodeling Experts. So, and for those of you in the Salem, Virginia area, if you are looking for some remodeling at home, and yes, all this will be in the show notes. But Chris, I want to thank you so much. Congrats on the book. Congrats on helping so many families with home modifications. A lot of times it's a necessary, it's a need-based request. And so I'm sure you have seen some families going through some very hard conversations and difficult decisions. So thank you for serving in that way as you did in the construction business. And we need more people like that. And it's good to know that you're out there training the new generation, doing the CAP certification, the instructor for them. So thank you so much today. We really appreciate it. And I wish you all the best in your book and all of your endeavors at your writing desk.
Thanks, Lisa. Yes.
Thanks for joining me on Not Ready Yet, Curating Conversations for the Aging Journey. If something in this episode gave you clarity or the courage to start an important conversation, or offered a new way to look at things, I hope you'll share it with someone who might need the same encouragement. Remember, navigating aging isn't something we have to do alone or in crisis. With love, logic, and the right tools, we can face what's next with confidence and connection. Be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave a review. It helps others find the show. And just a quick note, the information shared on this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for medical, psychiatric, legal, or other professional advice. Always consult a qualified professional for guidance tailored to your unique situation. This is Lisa Harper, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.